Dungeon Diver, Stealing a Monster's Power. By WebNovels. Synopsis. In a world where dungeons have existed for over 80 years, a 20-year-old boy named Jay finally awakens his status. He dives into dungeons, leveling up to become stronger and find rare magical items. Follow Jay's journey as he learns more about his unique situation in a world that's grown blind of the real dangers in modern-day dungeon diving. Chapter 1. I woke up in a daze after hearing a series of loud knocks at the door. My head was pounding. I shouldn't have stayed up so late last night reading comics. It's a bad habit of mine. Jay. Rent is due. Aw man, is it the first of the month already? I grabbed my black jeans with rips in the knees off the foot of my bed and put them on. I couldn't find the shirt I was wearing last night, so decided I'd look for it later. I'll be right there, Mr. Windsor, give me a minute. I open my bedside table. There's 2 silver coins, 36 bronze coins, my iron dagger, and a half-empty bottle of water I bought on the way back from dungeon diving last night. With a sigh of relief, I grabbed the 2 silver coins and walked over to my door. Here you go, sir, have a nice day. Mr. Windsor grabbed the coins and nodded at me. See ya next month, kid. I close the door and mentally relax myself a bit. Rent is paid, life is good. Out of nowhere I started to feel lightheaded and my vision started going blurry. Luckily I caught myself on the door, shook my head a bit, and straightened up. I walked over to my bed again to grab that leftover bottle of water. As I chugged it, my head started feeling better and I almost heard my younger sister's voice yelling at me. Jay, you have to remember to drink your water when you wake up. It's more like I need to drink more water in general. I get so sucked into my fantasy world sometimes, I forget the real world is moving on around me. I start muttering to myself. Sigh, alright, time to get up. I find a new shirt from the closet in the corner of the room, throw on my boots, tuck the iron dagger into a small sheath in my jeans and grab 3 bronze coins before I walk out the door so I can buy some breakfast on my way to the dungeon. Morning, Jay, are you going out to hunt today? My neighbor Maria was sitting outside her apartment waiting for me to come out. Yes, Maria, just like every day. You know, I'm going to be a hunter soon too. My first college term starts next week. I'll get to see my status and be a great hunter just like you know. Oh really? Looking forward to it. I really wasn't taking in all the words she was saying, I was just making small talk and zoning out in my head like usual. She is really pretty though. That was at least half of what I was thinking about during most of our interactions. Maria has short blonde hair that barely touches her shoulders and bright blue eyes. Plus she says good morning to me pretty much every day since I moved in here a few months ago. She's my daily dose of dopamine before I go to work in the dungeon every day. After a few more smiles and meaningless conjecture, I walk down 1 flight of stairs to the street to make my way towards my team's usual meeting spot. I became a hunter myself 2 months ago, but not in the conventional way, plus I'm only a porter. My team's weakest link. I'm really not as great as she thinks. Most people become hunters when they turn 18 or 19 right after they enter college. It's pretty normal in society for students to pursue a hunter's career. Over half of the population is, or was a full-time hunter at some point in their life. There's good money in selling mana crystals for the energy inside them, and also many other magical items for various reasons. Most people hunt for 2 to 4 years while they're studying in school. It never hurts to get some experience in the dungeons even if you are going to work in the corporate world. My family situation is a bit complicated. I wasn't able to go to college after high school, so I never had the opportunity to open my status early. On my 20th birthday I decided to open my status on my own. 2 months ago, Flashback story. Opening your status is what some call awakening or becoming a hunter. It's pretty straightforward. All you have to do is kill a monster in a dungeon and your status will be revealed. If you're not awakened yet, it's common practice to go with an experienced party the first time. I woke up on my 20th birthday and decided to do just that. I walked to a dungeon about 3 kilometers from my old apartment and paid a party of 5-10 bronze each to help me out. Out of pocket it was 50 bronze in total. Half a silver coin is a lot for me, but I thought of it as an investment worthwhile. Other than the money, I came completely unprepared. Thankfully the party leader lent me his old dagger. I went to a dungeon called the Alpine Square Dungeon. It got the nickname Starter Dungeon or the Alpine Square Starter Dungeon because it only has goblins. Goblins are some of the weakest monsters. They can be defeated by most normal people without awakened abilities if they have a good weapon. The team of 5 lead me through the dungeon portal. It was a big blue glowing circle standing straight up at a perfect 90-degree angle to the ground. As we walked through, I saw a whole new world I had only read about in the news and in comics. Dungeons aren't always as dark and dreadful as the word itself sounds. Dungeons are just the name the government decided to give to the occurrence of pocket worlds popping up. The first occurrence was over 80 years ago. The current world and economy is built around the idea of dungeons and hunters as a whole. This particular dungeon is a grassland dungeon. It has a bright blue sky, minimal trees, and thin light green grass that came up to about my knees. The party leader let me admire the new world for a moment before we ventured in. We walked in a straight line for about 5 minutes, then I started hearing shuffling and loud grunts. A small creature that looked something like a deformed child standing about a meter tall started charging towards me. Its skin was dark green with a face similar to a 90-year-old man. It was covered in wrinkles and scars from head to toe. The worst part was that I could smell its stench from over 5 meters away. The goblin was holding a dark black object that looked like a stone sharpened into some kind of makeshift knife. "All right, boy, we have your back, but it's up to you to take down this goblin. Welcome to the dungeon." Ha ha ha. They all started laughing a bit, but the leader seemed very supportive, so I felt safe. I held the dagger in my right hand and watched the goblin as it charged towards me. I mumbled, 5 meters. 3 meters. It's here. With my eyes wide I decided to strike its disgusting-looking face and quickly lunged in towards the opposite side of its knife hand. It let out a loud squeal as my dagger pierced its right eye and the monster started gushing blood. It came at me again without hesitation. The same move, just a simple charge. I went for its face a second time and had a direct hit followed by quickly jumping out of the way. With 2 successful attacks I felt confident that I could defeat this goblin without a scratch. I looked at the little green creature as it started sprinting towards me again. To my surprise, this time it grabbed its knife with 2 hands in the middle of its body. I was thrown off guard, so I just jumped out of the way as fast as I could and fell on the ground, tripping over my own feet. The goblin turned and gave a menacing stare. It sprinted towards me again while I had nowhere to go. I couldn't get up in time, so I decided to take his attack full on. I braced my left arm and took on his attack while positioning myself to counter. It was painful, but surprisingly the goblin was not as strong as I expected. It made a small gash in my arm, but at the same time I managed to stab it in the neck. It squealed a bit, but within seconds it went limp and fell to the floor. "Aye, nice job, kid. 3 hits, that's not bad for your first time." He clapped a few times and walked over to me. I then heard a loud sound ring from inside my head. "Status open." underscore 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 underscore. Name, J Soju. Level, 1. HP, 7/10. MP, 10/10. Strength, 10. Speed, 11. Agility, 12. Defense, 10. Mental strength, 10. Skills. Absorption. Items equipped. Iron dagger. Underscore 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 underscore. I looked at the light blue holographic screen in front of my eyes for a full minute in awe with the biggest grin across my face. Hey, let me take a look, kid, I can tell you what it all means. I showed the party leader my status screen. Alright, so now that you've awakened, you've gained a few new abilities normal people don't have. First of all, you've become about 3 times stronger just from awakening. Each of your stats will grow stronger every time you level up. The base level for everyone's stats is 10, but it looks like your speed and agility have a few extra points. This is pretty normal. It just means you're going to be more of a speed type fighter than anything else. Your speed and agility will level up a bit faster than your other stats. Not too bad, looks like you'll be on the front line, kid. Thanks. And what about my skill? I research hunters a lot, but I've never seen this one. Have you? Absorption, I haven't seen that exact one. Maybe you got a unique or a rare skill, you're a lucky kid. I'd assume it absorbs HP or MP from your opponent. There's some gear and magic items that can do that too, but it's nice you have a skill for it so you won't have to spend any money for those abilities. I'd be happy to have a skill like that. I'm sure guilds will be all over you in a few months. True. Well, thank you again. For another 5 minutes I kept staring at my status screen until I heard the grass moving. Right in front of my eyes was another goblin. I went into full attack mode immediately. I lunged at it before it could even react and I cut it down in 2 slashes. Level up. Underscore 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 underscore. Name, J Soju. Level, 2. HP, 12/15. MP, 15/15. Strength, 12. Speed, 13. Agility, 15. Defense, 12. Mental strength, 12. Skills. Absorption. Items equipped. Iron dagger. Underscore 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 underscore. I leveled up. I muttered as I stared at my status screen again. The team leader laughed a bit. The good old days, I remember when it was that easy to level up. I looked at him with a confused look. What do you mean? What level are you guys? They each showed me their status screens. The leader was a level 37, all the other members were between level 30 and 35. We have been hunting consistently for a little over a year now, mostly just to make a living. This dungeon is a safe and easy way for us to get a good workout in every day and enjoy our lives. As he said that, the goblin I just killed started to disappear in front of my eyes. I heard stories that the dungeons absorb monsters once they've died, even hunters too. Apparently anything that dies in the dungeon will disappear in a matter of minutes. As the goblin disappeared, it dropped a small pink crystal behind it looked about the size of a bronze coin. The team leader picked it up and threw it to me. Catch, it was your kill, so it's your crystal. This one too. He threw me a second crystal. I must have been so focused on my new status that I missed the first goblin that disappeared. Alright, congrats kid. We're taking you back now, this is what you paid us for. We all turned around and trekked back to the dungeon exit. 10 minutes later, we were outside the dungeon standing in Alpine Square Park. Keep the dagger, you'll need it. Oh really? Thanks. And thank you for today. They all waved and went back inside the dungeon. I looked down at the dagger and the two small crystals in my hands with a grin on my face. Best birthday ever. I finally achieved a status. I can be a hunter for real now. Chapter 2. About 500 meters from the starter dungeon is a village market. It's where hunters can buy and sell item drops. I walked up to an older-looking man and asked if he'd buy my mana crystals. The going price is about 1 bronze coin per unit of mana energy. Goblin crystals coincidentally have about 1 unit of mana in them. The man took my 2 crystals and threw them on a small silver dish connected to a machine by the cash register. Black letters on the blue screen read 2.1 mu. He handed me 2 bronze coins and asked for my hunter's card. I don't have one yet, I was awakened today. Oh alright, it's not going to be problem with this quantity of mana, but you should stop by the Hunters Association and get a card before diving back into the dungeon. You're right sir, thank you. With my 2 newly earned bronze coins I half skipped my way back to my apartment. Right on the corner less than 50 meters from my home is a bakery. I decided to buy myself a cake to celebrate. When I finally got back, I ate the whole thing within a few hours. With a full stomach and the added fatigue of fighting my first monster today, I drifted off to sleep dreaming of my adventures to come. The next morning I took the first train straight to the Hunters Association. As I watched the houses fly by out the window, I opened up my status and saw that my HP had fully recovered overnight, as well as the slash on my arm. I smiled and just stared at my status the whole trip. Status open. Underscore 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 underscore. Name, J Soju. Level, 2. HP, 15/15. MP, 15/15. Strength, 12. Speed, 13. Agility, 15. Defense, 12. Mental strength, 12. Skills. Absorption. Items equipped. Iron dagger. Underscore 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 underscore. When I walked inside, a middle-aged woman with long black hair and a blinding white smile greeted me. Hi, welcome to the Hunters Association. How can we help you today? I need to register. I was awakened yesterday. Alright, perfect, come this way. I followed her to a small booth area where she immediately said smile and took my picture. She said asked me to open my status, so I showed her. She glanced at it quickly and wrote my name followed by my level in a notepad with many other names in it. Alright, thank you for coming in today. Please wait 5 minutes for me. Okay. She went into a back room for a few minutes. I waited patiently. The woman came back out with that same blinding white smile on her face and gave me a small card. It looked just like a driver's license. It had my name, my picture, the association's logo, and a large letter E on the top right side of the card. There is a class system for hunters. Once you're awakened, you are automatically given the E-class appraisal. It's the most basic hunter's ID you can acquire. I looked at it bright-eyed. Thank you very much. My pleasure, have a nice day, sir. You're welcome to come back anytime. I walked out the front door and took the train straight to Alpine Square Park, the stop right in front of the Alpine Square dungeon. I got off the train and made my way over to the glowing blue portal. I muttered to myself. It's time. I jumped through the portal and found myself in the very familiar grassland. I trekked forward full of confidence with my dagger drawn. I came across a goblin within minutes of my march. It was a quick battle. The monster came at me, but I'm much faster and agile than I was in my last battle. I swiftly slashed and dodged, then on its second charge I did it again. Easy, bring it on. I waited about a minute and a half, catching my breath while waiting for the mana crystal to appear. I grabbed the crystal and shoved it in my back pocket. By then I heard another goblin sound 20 meters to my left. I sprinted over and saw two goblins together looking up at me. One charged forward, making it much easier to focus on that one first. I sprinted straight as well, taking it down in 2 swift strikes. The second had begun its charge just like the first. Again, an easy victory. These goblins aren't the brightest, are they? Level up. Underscore 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 underscore. Name, J Soju. Level, 3. HP, 20/20ths. MP, 20/20ths. Strength, 15. Speed, 16. Agility, 18. Defense, 14. Mental strength, 15. Skills. Absorption. Items equipped. Iron dagger. Underscore 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 underscore. Although my health was full, my body isn't used to this kind of battle situation. So after just 3 goblins I've become pretty fatigued. I decided to make my way back to the portal before I venture in too far. On my way back I confronted one more goblin, but it was not a problem. In 2 slashes the pest was taken care of, but I was definitely nearing my limit. I made it out and decided to go to the market to sell my mana and eat something. After about an hour I was feeling a bit better. I was able to go back in the dungeon and defeat 3 more goblins. I didn't level up again, but I gained a lot of experience towards my future levels and fighting in the field. I got home that day and sprawled out on my bed in exhaustion. I didn't realize hunting was so tiring. I decided my goal for tomorrow as I drifted off into blissful sleep. I need to figure out how to use my skill. The next morning I woke up feeling as good as new. I also just remembered rent on my apartment is due in a week and a half. I either have to pay rent here or find a new place to live. It may not be a bad idea to find a place closer to the dungeon. It takes me almost an hour to walk there. I'll make sure to take a look around when I have the time. Today I'm focusing on my skill. When I finally made my way to the Alpine Square dungeon entrance I took a deep breath and dove in for my second day of solo exploring. I took it easy at first, defeating 2 goblins pretty quickly as a warm-up. Then again, I heard the voice ring in my head. Level up. Underscore 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 underscore. Name, J Soju. Level, 4. HP, 25/25ths. MP, 25/25. Strength, 17. Speed, 18. Agility, 21. Defense, 16. Mental strength, 17. Skills. Absorption. Items equipped. Iron dagger. Underscore 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 underscore. I noticed that certain stats have been leveling up at different rates. They have been growing about 2 to 3 points per level. It seems fighting just goblins will make it harder and harder to level up because it takes much more experience each time. While deep in thought, I decided to do a little test. The next goblin that appeared came charging towards me. I let it cut my arm. My HP fell to 23/25. I wanted to see if while fighting this goblin I could use my skill to absorb HP for myself. I locked my eyes on the goblin and tried to use my skill, repeating absorption in my mind over and over. I have gone to many events where famous hunters explain their skills. This is how they all say they use them. So it must be the same for me. Nothing happened. I tried over and over, dodging attacks and repeating absorption again and again in my mind until I just started yelling it out loud too. I tried making contact with the goblin as well. I thought maybe I needed to be touching the target to absorb HP. Again, nothing. Lastly, I repeated my skill's name as I slashed the goblin 2 times. Nothing. My HP was still at 23/25, and my MP was staying still at 25/25. I was beginning to get a little tired and pretty annoyed. I made my way back to the dungeon exit gate and fought 2 more goblins, trying all kinds of possible variations. Still, no luck. I stepped out of the gate with 5 goblin mana crystals and all of a sudden realized what the problem may be. I said in a hushed voice, "What if it's MP absorption?" As it dawned on me, I was pretty disappointed, but it also wasn't the end of the world. MP is used up when a skill is used. If my skill is for MP absorption, it can only be used when my MP isn't full. The only way to deplete my MP is to use a skill. So there lies my problem. I basically don't have a skill. I slowly walked to the village center and cashed in my 5 mana crystals for 5 bronze coins. I bought a big sandwich at one of the local shops to replenish some energy and really think about my situation. When people are awakened, about half of them receive a skill, 1/2 people. Some of the most common skills are body hardening, swordsmanship, and speed boosts. These are all basic traits that will boost a stat or help in combat. There are also rare skills like healing magic, HP/MP recovery, and various types of combat magic, fire, water, wind, earth, ice, etc. These rare skills awaken in about 1/20 people. Then there are unique skills. It's rather rare but not impossible. About 1/1000 people have a unique skill, one that has never been reported before. There have also been cases of hunters having more than one skill. About 1/100 hunters have 2 skills. Having 2 skills is rare, but not too unheard of in the hunting community. Usually hunters with 2 skills rise up through the ranks much quicker, so a higher percent of the top hunters have 2 skills. It's rumored that a hunter could have more than 2, but there's nobody in the public eye with 3 or more skills, so it's still just a rumor. My skill would have been perfect if I had a good second skill. I could replenish my MP and use another skill unlimited times. What a waste! I decided to do a bit more testing the second half of the day but had no luck. I defeated 5 more goblins and stayed at level 4. I traded my 5 mana for bronze coins and walked home. I was kind of bummed out that my skill was a bust, but there's nothing I can do about it. I just have to level up and get stronger. For the rest of the week I dove into the dungeon every day. After 7 days straight of grinding goblins I was able to level up 4 more times. Level up. Level up. Level up. Level up. Underscore 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 underscore. Name, J Soju. Level, 8. HP, 45 45ths. MP, 45 45ths. Strength, 26. Speed, 29. Agility, 33. Defense, 24. Mental strength, 25. Skills. Absorption. Items equipped. Iron dagger. Underscore 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 underscore. That last level up took me over 25 goblins to achieve. I am definitely getting stronger, and I'm able to stay in the dungeon to fight for much longer as well. I can defeat most goblins in one slash, but it's getting harder and harder to level up each time. Also my walk to and from the dungeon every morning and night is really starting to get to be a hassle. I think it's a good idea to move into an apartment closer to the dungeon and the village center. Over the next week I continued hunting every day and moved into a new apartment managed by an old man named Mr. Windsor. He seemed nice, but for some reason was never in a good mood. Rent here is 2 silver coins a month. If I hunt and save about 7 bronze coins a day, 210 in 30 days, everything over that will be profit. It's a bit more pricey than my old place, but it's definitely worth it. I can easily survive on May 10th bronze a day for meals. I just hope I don't need much new gear. If I can make 15 to 20 bronze a day on average I should be fine. Now that I live close to the dungeon life is a bit easier, but my level has only gone up by 2 during this full week of hunting. Open status. Underscore 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 underscore. Name, J Soju. Level, 10. HP, 55 55ths. MP, 55 55ths. Strength, 31. Speed, 34. Agility, 38. Defense, 29. Mental strength, 30. Skills. Absorption. Items equipped. Iron dagger. Underscore 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 underscore. I finally hit double digits. I'm happy but also a bit concerned. It took well over 100 goblins for me to level up 2 times. Goblins are a good source of money, but I won't be getting much stronger while fighting them anymore. I have to find a new strategy. Chapter 3. There are 3 types of dungeons in this world. The first being the stable dungeons. Alpine Square Dungeon is a stable dungeon. It has a large open environment where monsters are spawned in very regularly. There is a boss in stable dungeons. A party can challenge this boss as many times as they'd like and the dungeon will remain exactly the same. Hunters are able to enter and leave the dungeon as they wish, monsters are not. The second type is called a dungeon break. It's similar to a stable dungeon because it has a wide open environment where many monsters spawn, but the difference is the boss can only be fought once. After the boss is defeated, the dungeon will disappear. There are 2 ways a dungeon break can happen. The most common way is a dungeon will appear in our world as they do from time to time, but the portal will be red. This indicates it is a different type of dungeon. Once hunters enter, both hunters and monsters are able to enter and leave as they wish. Keeping the safety of citizens in mind, it is a top priority to defeat the boss and clear these dungeons as fast as possible. A less common occurrence is when a stable dungeon turns into a dungeon break. When this happens, the monsters are able to wander out into our world. The same urgency applies here. Hunters swarm to defeat the final boss during dungeon breaks because often there are much better item drops. Lastly, the third dungeon is called a labyrinth dungeon. It appears as a green portal. Only hunters are able to move in and out of this dungeon. Labyrinth dungeons are a series of stable dungeons stacked together to create a maze of dungeons. Once you start a labyrinth dungeon, the only way to the next floor or next dungeon is by defeating the one before it. After each boss battle, you are allowed to enter white portals that bring you to the next floor. The only way back is by following your footsteps. You're able to retreat, and on the way back you do not have to refight the boss battles. They do spawn in, but if you can avoid them, it's simple to make it back to the outside world in one piece. Some labyrinth dungeons have been said to have over 100 floors. Others have been reported having 10 to 15. They are really a mystery. All we know is the difficulty of monster gets higher the farther you travel in. If you can defeat the final floor, the labyrinth dungeon is cleared and disappears. This is the rarest dungeon type. Underscore 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 underscore. Today I decided to try and find a party that would let me be a porter for their boss raid. The recommended level to subjugate the boss at Alpine Square Dungeon was a team of 5 at level 20, or solo at level 30. I am not strong enough to fight the boss myself, but as a porter I'll be able to gain some EXP and also study the boss's movements for future battles. After standing around in the village market for about 30 minutes, I finally found a team looking for a porter. Yeah, we'll do 25 bronze for the day. Carry our bag, and stay out of the way. We're going in for 6 hours, we'll fight the boss twice. You up for it? Why, yes, I'm in. I followed the leader out of the market with the rest of the team. He didn't look much older than me. We looked about the same height too, around 180 centimeters. He carried a long silver sword and walked very confidently. You know, I hit level 26 last night. One of these days I think I'll face the boss solo. My swordsmanship skill is getting pretty refined. Some of the other team members grinned a bit. A bigger guy in the back of the party that looked like their tank said, Yeah boss. We're all over level 20 as well, we could take a crack at the boss solo too pretty soon. I bet we would gain a lot more EXP instead of splitting it 5 ways each time. With my body hardening I'm able to take more hits than all of you. The boss will be a piece of cake once I gain a few more levels. Then a thin woman with long brown hair standing next to the tank said, Maybe in a few months, we need more levels before we can try anything that stupid. Leader, I don't know why we have to hire a porter every time though. They just leech off our EXP every battle. We would level up much faster without one. Well, would you like to carry our gear? The team leader pointed at me carrying their oversized bag filled with food and random gear they probably will never use. The woman just rolled her eyes. The last member of the party chuckled a bit but didn't say a word. He was about 160 centimeters with short messy blonde hair. He carried 2 silver daggers. He must be their speed type. He looks like a skilled fighter. They fight in a team of 4. Plus me the porters, so 5. 1 tank, 1 swordsman, 1 speed type that uses daggers, and a mage. I overheard the women talking about magic before we left, but I don't know her skill exactly. I'm going to assume she has a rare magic skill. This will be my first time witnessing a team fight, also it's my first time raiding a final boss. I'm both excited and nervous. After we entered the dungeon, we followed the team leader with the sword deep into the dungeon. We have been walking for well over an hour. Whenever goblins come anywhere near our team, someone finishes them off in one blow. I was caught off guard when the woman raised both her hands in front of herself and let out a massive blast of fire. It was a huge fireball around a meter in diameter that shot out 3 meters in front of her and fried a goblin to ashes in seconds. I was shocked but impressed as well. After a little over 2 hours we made it to the boss room. It was a very light grey portal. The leader turned to all of us. "Alright, let's make this quick. Porter, come in and stay out of our way. The usual formation, let's go." We all nodded in agreement and jumped through. It was a cave-like room about 30 meters long, 20 meters wide, and no more than 10 meters high. I quickly got to the side of the cave and took out my dagger. I was on guard, but out of the way as the leader requested. A huge-looking green man walked out from the back of the room. He must have been over 2.5 meters tall, carrying a huge axe. Easily twice my weight. It had dark green skin, a disgusting-looking face, and a stench similar to a combination of body odor and feces. About 10 regular goblins came from the back of the room as well. It looked like they had all just spawned out of nowhere. The leader yelled. The hobgoblin appeared. "Attack!" He charged at it, right past all the goblins, paying them no mind, and clashed sword to axe. As this was happening, the speed type moved in from behind him and slashed the monster's legs. It squealed in pain. Meanwhile, the tank was pulling up the rear with a large wooden shield, looking like he would charge the monster head-on. The women stayed back and began lighting up the room with fire, incinerating all of the goblins that appeared. As the hobgoblin writhed in pain, the swordsman jumped back and let the tank charge at the monster. It swung its axe down and hit the shield dead in the center. The wood splintered but held steady, and the swordsman made his move. With the hobgoblin distracted, he went for a fatal blow and landed a perfect hit right through the neck. Simultaneously, on the opposite side of the monster, the speed type came from underneath and landed 2 clean shots deep in its back. The hobgoblin let out a last grunt as it fell to the floor. That was incredible. They made it look so easy. I have a long way to go until I'm at that level. I stared at them all in awe as they celebrated a bit and collected the large mana crystal after the hobgoblin completely disappeared. Then all of a sudden, all I could see was a blinding white light. Before I knew it, we were all back in the tall grass right back by the exit gate. The team leader looked at us. "All right, good fight, let's do one more and call it a day." Everyone just nodded and we made our way through the grasslands again. I rewatched the fight in my head like a daydream over and over as we walked. Occasionally they asked for random items like food and gear from the bag. Gear-wise, they had healing potions, all the mana crystals collected, a few explosive devices that were rated for level 40 plus use, so honestly too heavy duty for a starter dungeon, but I never asked about them, plus some extra swords and daggers. Once we got to the gate again, we entered the room and I witnessed a similar battle. The hobgoblin appeared, the leader charged in while the speed type took out its legs. The leader jumps into position while the tank distracts it. The leader goes for a fatal blow and the speed type makes sure the job is finished with a few extra hits. Meanwhile, the woman takes out all the surrounding threats. A polished strategy. I was thoroughly impressed. Level up. Underscore 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 underscore. Name: J Soju. Level 11. HP 60 60ths. MP 60 60ths. Strength 33. Speed 37. Agility 40. Defense 31. Mental strength 33. Skills. Absorption. Items equipped. Iron dagger. Underscore 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 underscore. I leveled up again? Already? The leader looked at me smirking. Yeah, it'll be like that until about level 15 or 16, even with 1/5 EXP the boss still gives out a lot of EXP. Everyone in the room shares it when a boss is killed. If you want to be our porter for a while, I'd be happy to have you. You don't complain and you get out of the way and let us handle our business. Couldn't ask for more. Yes, I'd like that a lot. Whenever you need me, I'll come as a porter. As I said that, the team finished grabbing the mana crystal as well as an axe. It looks like the boss has a drop sometimes. I've heard even the starter dungeon boss drops can sell for over a good amount of coins sometimes. That axe must has some kind of stat boost. I was curious but decided not to pry. We were transported back to the dungeon exit. As I stepped out of the portal, the team leader handed me 25 bronze coins. 25 a day work for you? We can keep it at that rate. Yes, perfect. Great. We'll meet you at the village market around 8 AM tomorrow. Welcome to the team, porter. We parted ways and I made my way home for the day. I didn't do much fighting, but I was exhausted. I thought to myself with a grin on my face as I walked up the steps to my apartment. The boss room gives so much EXP. I'll be a level 20 like them in no time. I heard a soft high-pitched voice. Did you have a good hunt today? It was a young girl, maybe 18 years old. With really bright blue eyes. My name is Maria, I saw you just moved in next door. Welcome to the block. She smiled and bobbed her head back and forth with closed eyes. Thanks, yeah, it was a good hunt. My name is Jay, thanks for the welcome. She blushed a bit, but I hardly noticed. I was really exhausted to my limit. Looks like you're tired from a long day at work. Well, rest up. I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, you're right. Okay, see ya. With that pleasant but awkward greeting over with, I opened my door, took off my boots, threw my shirt on the ground, and took a shower before going to bed early. I woke up the next morning refreshed and pretty excited for my second day of work as a porter. I met the team at the market around 8 AM and we ventured off to the dungeon to do it all again. Chapter 4. Present day. It's been 6 weeks since I took the job as porter on a team of 4 diving into the Alpine Square starter dungeon. I've learned a lot, gained a good amount of EXP, but the one thing I'm lacking is money. I just paid my rent, 2 silver coins, and took 3 bronze coins to grab breakfast on the way to work. All I have left in my drawer back home in 33 bronze coins. I'm living a simple life, eating good food, diving into the dungeon, sleeping, and doing it all over again every day. My only goal at the moment is to learn more and get stronger, but to be honest, I've plateaued. Open status. Underscore 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 underscore. Name, J Soju. Level, 21. HP, 110/110. MP, 110/110. Strength, 56. Speed, 63. Agility, 67. Defense, 52. Mental strength, 57. Skills. Absorption. Items equipped. Iron dagger. Underscore 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 underscore. Like the team leader said, getting to level 15 was fast. From level 10 to 15, it took about a week. 15 to 17 was another week. Week 3 I made it to 19 and on week 4 I hit 20. Unfortunately, it was followed by a depressing 2 weeks of slow growth. At the end of week 6 I hit level 21. I've been standing in the back watching the party fight the boss this whole time. Occasionally I've been helping to defeat the goblins in the boss room while the team takes care of the real threat. I feel like I've learned everything I can from this team and it's time to move on soon. I just need to find the right time to tell the leader. As I walk down the stairs of my apartment to the ground floor I wave to Maria one more time and make my way towards the village market. Another day as a porter diving into the dungeon. We all grouped up like usual and entered the dungeon no more than 10 minutes later. We made our usual trek through the tall grass today fighting off the occasional goblin. Today we made pretty good time, under 2 hours for sure. The leader looked pretty happy with us. Let's get this done quick today, it's the first of the month. I'm feeling lucky. The woman spoke up. Hey boss, isn't the portal a little darker than usual today? I noticed that as well, but decided not to comment. It was a couple shades of grey darker than usual. The leader laughed. Looks fine to me, what are we going to do about it anyway? We all just shrugged and entered the boss room. It felt a bit eerie today, almost like we were being watched from all sides. From the back of the room a huge dark green figure appeared. It was so dark it almost looked black. The stench was worse than anything I'd ever smelled and its eyes were a deep red color. It felt like with each glare it was slicing into our souls. It towered over us. This hobgoblin was over 4 meters tall. It carried a long silver sword and grinned at us like we were its prey. It's a mutant! The leader yelled, and the whole team got in formation. My usual duties were to eliminate any smaller threats, but there were none today. It was just us and this demonic creature. I stood by the wall and kept my eyes locked on the mutant. I've heard stories about mutant monsters before, but never saw one for myself until now. It's said that very rarely a mutant monster can spawn in a dungeon, or even as a boss monster. All of their stats are increased considerably, but the loot drop is also much more valuable. In our case the only thing that mattered right now was survival. The mutant let out a loud battle cry and charged towards the team of 4. The leader yelled and they all split off into their usual attack formation. The leader clashed swords with the mutant but was overpowered instantly. His sword was flung from his hands and he fell to the floor in front of the boss. This gave the speed type enough time to slash both the monster's legs. It barely reacted. The dagger's cuts were not deep enough to do any significant damage. The mutant was still focused on the swordsman. It raised its sword and made a mighty thrust down towards the leader. The tank jumped in at the last moment and threw his shield and himself in front of the attack. The massive sword broke the shield right down the center and the tank was sliced clean in half as well, right in front of our eyes. Time stopped for a moment. The whole team froze, realizing the situation we were all actually in right now. The mutant didn't flinch. It used its right foot to step on the leader's legs and finished him off with one slice of the sword before our eyes. The woman screamed and ran at the mutant with fists full of fire. The monster took 4 consecutive blasts of fire from her before it unexpectedly attacking directly through the flames and impaled her on the spot with no remorse. She was killed almost instantly. Lastly, the speed type was in mid-air going for a double dagger attack on the mutant's neck. His attack landed, the mutant screeched a bit and started bleeding, but it was far from a fatal blow. With unexpected speed and force, the mutant shook off the last fighter, leaving the 2 daggers deep in its neck. The mutant took up its sword and faced off with the remaining fighter. He was weaponless and wide open for attack. The mutant lunged at him, he dodged and jumped high out of the way. Within a split second, the mutant lunged even further forward to use the wall in front of it to switch directions quick enough that the fighter was still in mid-air. There was nowhere for him to run. Against a sword-wielding demon like this, it was over in a flash. Then there was me. Witnessing all of this, I was shocked beyond belief. The team that I had watched for over a month defeat boss after boss with a flawless strategy was destroyed in front of my eyes in a matter of seconds. The mutant turned its head towards me. I was petrified, but I knew I had to think fast. I muttered, "Think, Jay, think, think." Then I yelled to myself, "Think of something, you can't die like this." The mutant reacted to my big mouth and drew its sword. I threw the big team bag on the ground in front of me and ripped it open with my dagger. Mana crystals fell out, swords clanged on the ground, an extra dagger rolled to my left foot, then 3 rectangular explosive charges fell next to my right. This is it, my only chance. I set my dagger on my waist and grabbed all 3 charges, 2 in my left hand, 1 in my right. I remember back to one time our team leader talked about these charges. If you throw them at a target hard enough, it's enough to set them off. They're rated for LV40, meaning it can kill a monster that an average level 40 hunter would have an even fight with. In theory it was pretty dangerous carrying them around, but apparently they're pretty hard to set off by accident. The mutant was still just glaring at me with its sword drawn, waiting for me to make the first move. It was about 20 meters in front of me. I decided to make my move and sprinted to the right. I did not want to get pinned against the wall. I decided fighting out in the open would be a much better move. The mutant reacted and followed my movements with its deep red eyes while quickly moving towards me. I locked my eyes on its torso while tracking the sword, trying to guess its trajectory. The beast was 10 meters away now and not showing any signs of slowing down. Again, time felt like it had slowed down almost to a halt. The mutant was just over 5 meters from me. This is the only chance I'll get. I threw the charge directly at the mutant. It recognized my attack and almost stopped in its tracks. My eyes went wide as it swerved to my left almost instantly. The charge exploded the moment it made impact with the ground and blew chunks of rocks everywhere. I was hit by a huge chunk of stone in the gut, and another sliced open my right leg. It hurt, but I couldn't think about it because in my peripherals I saw the mutant coming towards me on the left. Avoiding the blast as best it could and wielding its sword angrily, the mutant stared me down. The only thing I could think of was to throw the 2 remaining charges with my left hand. That's all I had time to do. If I threw them directly at the monster, it would dodge again and I'm as good as dead. The next half a second felt like hours had gone by. My brain was working harder right now than it ever had in my life. Every moment of the last 2 months flashed before my eyes. I needed to find the answer. Then, all of a sudden it seemed so clear. I turned my head to look the mutant in the eyes. I threw the 2 charges at the ceiling above me while making a full 180-degree turn to sprint away from the danger zone. The mutant followed after me, eyes locked on its prey just under 5 meters behind me. 1 second later I heard it. Boom! The 2 charges went off, destroying a massive stalactite cluster hanging from the ceiling. I turned my head one more time as I ran, watching over a dozen 2 to 3 meter rock spears fall directly onto the mutant. One perfectly pierced its skull. It fell to the ground as 6 others pierced its back. I I heard it cry from under the rubble. Then silence. After about 10 seconds the rubble started to move again, my heart skipped a beat, but then it stopped moments later. I heard a familiar ringing in my head. Level up. Level up. Level up. Level up. Level up. I went to open my status, but a similar blue light was floating over the rubble where the monster fell. In light blue letters a message that looked like my status window read. Use absorption. Skill, swordsmanship. Yes, no. Exhausted and dazed from the trial I just went through, I clicked yes without hesitation, not thinking much of it. The letters disappeared and I almost dropped to my knees. The mutant disappeared and a large mana crystal popped up out of the rubble along with a long shining silver sword. I thought to myself, I'll have to get this checked out at the market, as a white light transported me back to the dungeon entrance. I stood there covered in blood, admiring the mana crystal in my left hand and a long silver sword in my right. I took a deep breath in and out, then checked my status. Status open. Underscore 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 underscore. Name, J Soju. Level, 26. HP, 81/135. MP, 85/135. Strength, 67 plus 50. Speed, 75. Agility, 80. Defense, 62. Mental strength, 68. Skills. Absorption. Swordsmanship. Items equipped. Iron dagger. Stainless steel longsword plus 50 strength. Chapter 5. I slowly walked home thinking about the last few hours in my head over and over like it was a dream. When I got to my apartment building, I walked up the small staircase to my door, twisted the key, and went inside. I threw the mana crystal onto my desk, put the long sword up against the wall next to my closet, took off my clothes and boots, then turned on a steaming hot shower. I scrubbed every last speck of dirt and blood until my skin hurt, then I just stood there and let the hot water roll down my back. Once I was content, I turned the water off, dried myself with a new towel, threw on some boxers and jumped in bed. It was about noon, but I was too exhausted to care. Within a few minutes I was fast asleep. Around 8 or 9 at night I finally woke up with my stomach growling. I needed some good food ASAP. I put on my other pair of black jeans with no holes in the knees and a random black tee from my closet, threw on my boots, then stood and stretched a bit. I grabbed the mana crystal on my desk and walked out the door to the village market. It was Friday night, so there was bound to be something good open tonight. I walked up to the old merchant I used to sell my mana crystals to. I toss him the crystal I had acquired earlier in the day. How much can I get for this one? He looked at me with his right eyebrow raised a bit and placed the crystal on the measuring dish. In big black numbers I saw 41.3 mu. Now that's quite a rock you brought in today. I'll give you 40 bronze coins for it. Deal. He took the crystal and placed it in a drawer under the shop counter. Then he pulled out 40 bronze coins. I didn't think this through, I said as I awkwardly shoved all the coins into my left pocket. The merchant laughed a little. Pleasure doing business with you, hope I see you again soon. I turned and smiled. You too, I'll drop by tomorrow morning. I have a sword I'd like you to look at. All right, I'm looking forward to it. I went straight to the bar, ordered a huge plate of wings and a draft beer. I needed a full belly, and an empty mind. I stayed for a few more hours and drank a few more beers. Nothing crazy, just enough to have a good time and relax a bit. Around midnight I went back home and managed to fall asleep again for a few hours. I woke up very early the next morning with a few things on my mind. I needed to get this sword checked out, and I needed to report what happened in the dungeon to the Hunters Association. If it were up to me I'd keep it a secret, but it was known in some circles that I was the porter on this particular squad of 5 for quite a while now. The fact that they were all just missing and I was still walking around would slowly become rather suspicious. It's better that I file a report ASAP. There may still be some backlash because I was a lone survivor. People will have their theories, but at least I won't get in trouble with the Hunters Association if I just report it today. After last night I had about 26 bronze coins left over from the monocrystal I sold, add that to the 33 I had in my bedside table and that's 59 bronze coins on total. I'm broke, and out of a job. I guess I'll have to go back to hunting goblins, especially after this news gets out. No one will want to party with me. I grab my sword and 15 bronze coins for breakfast plus whatever else I'll need to buy today. I head out the door and towards the village market. I saw the old merchant and give him a smile and wave from a distance. Hey boy, welcome back so soon. What can I do for you today? I hand him the sword with a satisfied smile. Can you tell me anything about this sword? I received it in a boss fight as an item drop. I'm trying to see what it's worth. Sure thing, I have the inspect skill. I can see any magical item's true value and purpose at a glance. He looked at the sword for a moment and his eyes widened a bit. This is a nice piece of art you've got here. It's a stainless steel long sword with a strength buff built in. Whenever you use this sword in battle you will receive a plus 50 boost in your strength stat. Not a bad find. I'll buy it off you for 6 silver coins. 6 silver coins. That's 3 months' rent in one drop. I'd have to be crazy not to accept this offer. Then again, it's a pretty valuable sword that I could use to get much stronger in the future. I just paid rent, I'll have plenty of time to make money this month. When else will I get the chance to get my hands on a magical item like this? The shopkeeper repeated himself. Yes, I can offer you 6 silver coins. I'll still be able to make a small profit. I'm sure I can find the right buyer for a sword like that. I gripped the sword and thought to myself for a few more seconds, then I shook my head. I'm going to have to refuse to sell today, I'm sorry. I'd like to use this sword myself. Maybe you have a sheath that'd fit a sword this size? I'd like to be able to easily carry it around on my back. The merchant looked a bit disappointed, but carried on without hesitation to make his next sale. Sure thing, here's a black leather sheath that will match your sword and appearance quite nicely. I like it. How much? 10 bronze coins for you. After breakfast I have 12 bronze left in my left pocket, just enough. I place 10 on the counter leaving 2 in my left pocket. I take the sheath, place my sword inside, and sling the strap over my right shoulder and under my left arm. This will definitely do. Thanks again. I'll be seeing you soon, old man. Always a pleasure, see you soon. I hop on the next train out to the Hunters Association. While watching the houses fly by outside the window I pop up my status and take a look. Status open. Underscore 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 underscore. Name, J Sochu. Level, 26. HP, 135/135. MP, 135/135. Strength, 67 plus 50. Speed, 75. Agility, 80. Defense, 62. Mental strength, 68. Skills: Absorption, Swordsmanship. Items equipped: Stainless steel longsword plus 50 strength. Underscore 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 underscore. Alright. So that plus 50 makes sense now. It's thanks to my new sword, but this new skill. This new skill? Wait. It really wasn't a dream. My absorption skill. It really allows me to absorb a monster's skill once I defeat it. I just didn't realize until now because I'd been fighting goblins with no skills to take. All my tests were useless because I was just testing for the wrong thing. I shook with excitement but also some nerves. This whole situation has its ups and downs. It's good, because I finally have a skill that'll be useful for fighting, swordsmanship. I've read it's like intuition that takes over and the user becomes one with his sword in battle. The user grows in experience as he fights more battles. A skill's power is very dependent on the user's level. Swordsmanship is one of the most common skills, but still it's one of the most useful. I'm excited to try this skill out, maybe I'll get a chance later today. There is a downside here. I have a very odd unique skill. Not many people acquire unique skills, and on top of that a skill with this much potential. I could be targeted by a number of groups for too many reasons to count. It's best I keep this a secret for as long as I possibly can. Skreek. The train finally came to a halt at my stop. I stepped out onto the open platform and make my way towards the Hunters Association building. Chapter 6. I walk through the front door of the Hunters Association to be greeted again with that same blinding white smile of the woman in the lobby. Hello Jay, welcome back so soon. What can I do for you today? I was a bit flustered with the abrupt greeting. How'd she remember my name? I guess that's what she's paid to do. Yuahida. I'd like to report a dungeon incident that happened to my team and me yesterday. With no change in expression the woman nodded. Sure thing, right this way. She walked me further back into the building. This time it looks like we'll be in a private room. A few moments later, after walking down a rather narrow hallway, she opened a door on the left and motioned for me to enter. I took a step inside. Please wait one moment, I have to grab a representative. We will be right with you. Oh okay, sure. I'll wait, take your time. I walked into the small room. It had soft white walls, not too futuristic to the point where it would be ominous. There were two half-oval beige couches in the center of the room surrounding a small rectangular table. I sat down in the middle of the couch on my left side and patiently waited. About 3 minutes later, two figures showed up at the door. There was a tall man at least 190 centimeters with a tan olive color skin tone. He had short black hair that he managed to gel up a little bit. He wore a black suit, with a white undershirt, no tie, and rather shiny black shoes. He pushed his thin-framed black glasses up to his eyes and greeted me with a weak smile. His partner was a small woman, no more than 150 centimeters tall with a cool white skin tone. She had bright green hair and green eyes to match it. The hair was very thick and wavy. It was put up in two ponytails that made right angles, basically shooting straight off either side of her head. It must be the contrast from the white walls, or just the unique shape, but her hair was like nothing I'd ever seen. It really caught me off guard. She was wearing a small black suit and white undershirt as well to match the man, but it looked a little silly on her. The man opened his mouth to speak. Welcome to the Hunters Association J, E-Class Hunter. My name is Mr. Reynard, and this is my partner Ms. Sotoro. She immediately interjected. You can call me Abby, it's short for Abigail. Abigail Sotoro, nice to meet you. She smiled wide, closed her eyes and bobbed her head back and forth and swung her legs a bit, hitting the couch a few times until the man spoke again. We are D-Class Hunters, representatives at the Hunters Association to file a report you've requested. Please explain to us what happened. He looked at me with a bored look on his face and took out a notepad with a pen. Abby just sat there staring at me, bobbing her head a little. Yes, I nervously retold the entire story as well as I could remember. I intentionally left out the part about my skill. I just hope they don't end up asking about my skills in the end, because I didn't mention using anything but those explosive charges, plus I walked in here with a huge sword on my back. The man's expression did not change at all as he noted everything he could on his pad. The woman was a bit more serious now, and looked up at her partner and back at me a few times. It was silent in the room aside from a few pen strokes and Abby's feet hitting the bottom of the couch every once in a while with the erratic swinging of the legs. My mind raced a bit, just going over everything that happened in the last 5 minutes. Then I got stuck to one sentence the man said when he entered the room. We're D-Class Hunters. They must be really strong. The class system works in a pretty interesting way. There are 5 main hunter classes. The first is E-Class. The class I'm currently a part of. When you're first awakened, you are assigned an E-Class rating. You're stronger than the average human, but still weak if the eyes of top-class monsters and hunters alike. The first stage of E-Class is making it past level 20, once you do that you're a real E-Class hunter because you're able to take on the weakest bosses with a team. Even if you're not going to pursue a career in hunting and go the corporate route, which over 50% of people do, it's still recommended to get a few months in the field while studying or working to get to that level 20 status. Then once you're a real E-Class hunter, there's a few routes you can take. The first is just farming low-level monsters and bosses to make a living. It's basically the same pay and workload of a regular construction job once you get to a certain skill level. The second route you can take is joining a guild or the Hunters Association itself, the government, basically a huge guild. Around level 20 to 30 guild scouts start looking to recruit hunters with promising talent. Guilds find up-and-coming hunters and build teams to raid higher-level dungeons. They will usually pay you a monthly wage and supply you with basic gear. All mana and unique drops are property of the guild that sends you out on the mission, unless you've made a special contract. Most hunters' goal is to be recruited by a top guild. It's stable pay and a more reliable way to slowly level up over time. The last path to take is to build your own party, or dive into dungeons solo. This is the high-risk high-reward route. You get to choose your own hours, keep your own drops, and challenge whichever dungeons you please. It's much more dangerous without a guild's professional guidance, but some hunters always choose this route. The first step between an E-Class hunter and a D-Class hunter is a pretty big one. To get your hunter's license renewed to a D-Class certification, your level must surpass 100. There are no other requirements, you just have to reach level 100. In the first 5 years of a hunter's career, about 10% of them make it to level 100. Most quit to work a corporate job, stay at the lower difficulty E-Class starter dungeon, or get killed trying to push their limits too fast. Making it to a D-Class ranking is a pretty big deal, but not too uncommon for senior hunters to achieve. It just takes time and patience. If you can achieve a D-Class status before the age of 25, most of the bigger guilds will try to recruit you without hesitation. It's every beginner hunter's ultimate goal. It's also a big deal to achieve this rank because in front of all D-Class or higher dungeons there is a Hunters Association run gate. You are forbidden to enter, it is highly illegal to enter a gate over your rating. You will be fined heavily or potentially imprisoned depending on the event. It sounds harsh at first, but it's really just for the safety of the lower class hunters. Rules and regulations are usually made for a good reason. The next class is C class. Every 4 months the Hunters Association holds a C-Class advancement test. The requirement to enter is level 250. The hunters are put through a series of tests to make sure they are ready for C-Class rated combat in the field. This is mostly for senior hunters that have been working in guilds for decades, but there are always a few prodigies that enter every year. They make the newspaper. Up-and-coming C-Class hunters are very exciting to follow. There are basically 2 types of C-Class hunters. The first kind is the retired C-Class hunters. These are older men and women who have made their fortune diving into dungeons and decide to build companies with their riches and connections, or just buy a home out in the middle of nowhere and no one hears of them again. The second type are the active C-Class hunters. A county's military power relies fully on how many C-Class and above hunters they can produce every year. Although there hasn't been a war in over 50 years, countries still like to flex on each other and boast military power. C-Class hunters will be sent on special missions and often raid unique dungeons for their guilds and home country. They are usually paid a salary, but basically all C-Class hunters have special contracts, so it's hard to know. C-Class is pretty much the pinnacle of a hunter's dream career. Once a year the Hunters Association hosts a B-Class advancement exam. It is pretty secretive, not many people know what goes on at that exam. All the public knows is that the minimum level to enter is 500. Only a few dozen people in the country challenge that exam every year. Mostly very old senior hunters and prodigies that have dared make it to that level. 1 in a million hunters ever make it to the B-Class rating. It's a dream within a dream for most. The Hunters Association has 90% of B-Class hunters in special contracts with the government. They're rarely seen out, usually raiding special high-class dungeons for the government to collect resources. The remaining 10% are either retired company owners or run some of the private big guilds. The life of a B-Class hunter is a mystery to most. Lastly, A-Class hunters. There is no exam to reach A-Class. In the 80-year history of the dungeons in our world there have been under 100 reported A-Class hunters. About 40 of them are alive today. Split between 78 nations, you're a huge military power if your country even posses one. The country I live in posses 4 A-Class hunters. We have a large population, and we are said to be in the Great 10 military powers, which is a nickname given to any country that has over 2 A-Class hunters. The only requirement to become an A-Class hunter is to surpass level 1000. They are all like real-life superheroes to the world. Many comics and books are written about them. Everyone follows them in the daily paper. Every young kid's dream is to meet an A-Class hunter once in their life. It's like meeting a mega celebrity. 50 years ago, after the Great War, there was said to be rumors of S-Class hunters. There are no records of any individuals with this rank even to this day, but people like to dream. In the Hunters Association archives, a rating for S-Class is available for hunters that reach level 10,000. Most people brush it off as rumors, and some write fiction stories about S-Class heroes. Hello. Hello. I saw Abby's wide green eyes less than a meter away from my face, waving her hand in front of my face while leaning over the table. Sorry, it's a bad habit. I tend to daydream in the worst situations. She giggled. He. The man stood up. Well, thank you for your time, Jay. We will report this to the association. Accidents happen in the dungeons. There's nothing we can do right now but take your word on the matter and let time take its course. Yes, sir. Thank you for listening. He walks to the door but hesitates for a moment and turns back. May I see your status window? We may need to report this as well. Better to have as much information on the matter as possible. I nervously open up my status. Sure. Status open. Underscore 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 underscore. Name, J Soju. Level, 26. HP, 135/135. MP, 135/135. Strength, 67 plus 50. Speed, 75. Agility, 80. Defense, 62. Mental strength, 68. Skills. Absorption. Swordsmanship. Items equipped. Stainless steel longsword plus 50 strength. Underscore 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 underscore. The man looked for a moment and Abby stretched her neck to take a look too. Her eyes went wide. You have 2 skills too? Swordsmanship is a good one, what's the first one do? My heart stopped for a second, it felt like my stomach was about to come out of my mouth. Oh it's. She stared at me with a blank but curious look on her face. It's. I was panicking in my head, I didn't prepare for this. I'm a dumbass. How could I walk into a government building the day I found out a secret that decided to keep from the world? I have to think of something. Then I thought of that first party I paid to help me awaken my status and what the leader said when he saw my skill. Of course. It's an MP absorption skill. Whenever I fight monsters I can replenish MP to continue using my swordsmanship skill at full power, it's a neat combination, right? Abby grinned. I like it, I like it, I like it. Jay, you should join the association, they treat double skill hunters like you and me really well here. I'll think about it. She pouted a bit, but still looked happy as could be. OK. Here's a card. She handed me a black card with the representative branch number on it and a big HA logo. Call us anytime, good talk Ji. She smiled and bobbed as she turned to the door and walked out in front of the man. He nodded at me. Thanks Jay, that's all for today. You may go home. He left the room as well. I sat there with my heart racing. I think they bought it. I just lied straight in the government's face. There's no way I can join the association now. After a few more minutes the lady with the bright smile knocked on the door and escorted me out of the building while making corporate small talk. I walked to the nearby train platform down the street and took a one-way route to Alpine Square Dungeon. Chapter 7. I arrived at Alpine Square and walked over to the dungeon entrance. I jumped through without another thought. I'm back already. I breathed in through my nose and took in the view of the familiar tall green grass, the bright blue sky, and the occasional tree out on the vast plain. I unsheathed my sword with my right hand and marched forward, it's time to kill some monsters. After a few minutes of walking I came across my first goblin. It snarled and came running towards me. I gripped my new sword with both hands and raised it above my head. For a moment I locked my eyes on the target, took a deep breath in and out, then swung with all my might. It felt so natural, like I had been training with a sword for years. It was a very heavy sword, close to 10 kilograms if I had to guess, but the added strength stat made using it feel as light as my old dagger. The silver blade sliced through the goblin from the top of its head and all the way through its torso like I was slicing warm butter. Goblins are weak compared to my current skill level, but I was astonished at my newfound jump up in sword handling. I just stood there and grinned ear to ear admiring my work. For the few hours I made my way through the dungeon getting used to my new sword and swordsmanship skill. With my natural advanced speed and agility plus the sword's added strength stat, I felt invincible. After hours of skill use and running around the dungeon like a madman swinging my sword, I was getting a bit fatigued. I had collected about 20 mana crystals and my pockets were getting full. It was mid-afternoon and I was also getting pretty hungry. I walked back the way I'd came to the gate and decided to open my status. Status open. Underscore 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 underscore. Name, J Soju. Level, 26. HP, 135/135. MP, 45/135. Strength, 67 plus 50. Speed, 75. Agility, 80. Defense, 62. Mental strength, 68. Skills. Absorption. Swordsmanship. Items equipped. Stainless steel longsword plus 50 strength. Underscore 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 underscore. My MP dropped that much. I didn't realize it at the time, but even just from fighting goblins, it looks like using my swordsmanship skill for long periods of time drains my MP. Noted. I'll have to get used to my MP usage and keep a closer eye on it. Swordsmanship is basically a passive skill that the hunter is constantly using in battle. Some skills like battle magic use a certain amount of MP per attack. Other skills like body hardening or swordsmanship will consume MP at a lower rate, but constantly drain MP as long as you are in battle. Of course, the more intense the battle become, the more you will have to rely on your skill and hence, the more MP you will consume. I made it to the village market in no time and walked over to the general store with the old merchant. Welcome back so soon, Jay. What are you looking for this evening? I dug into my back pockets and dumped a small pile of mana crystals onto the counter. Looking to sell all of these. This sword is a beauty. Glad I decided to keep it for myself. I grinned and turned to the side a bit so the setting sun could reflect a bit of light off the handle of the sword at the old man. Glad you're having a good time, kid. I remember my first couple years as a hunter, haha. Just don't get into too much trouble, stay safe out there. He took the crystals and placed them on the measuring dish. The screen read, 20.6 mu. We both nodded at each other. He took the crystals and put them under the counter, then started counting out bronze coins. 20 bronze work for you, kid. I smiled and nodded again. Yep, perfect. By the way, do you have any MP recovery potions? He handed me my bronze, then started looking around under the counter. Of course, one moment. He pulled out 3 small glass bottles with light brown corks in the tops. They were no more than 200 ml each and were filled with a light pink liquid that seemed to glow very dimly. Here's a couple E-class MP recovery potions, I'll sell them to you for a silver coin each. 2 silver and 75 bronze for all 3, what do ya say? My eyes widened. 1 silver each? I didn't realize they were so pricey. I'll pass for today, maybe I'll buy some next week. Thanks though, old man. It's alright, see ya around, Jay. Always a pleasure. I turned and walked away slowly. That was embarrassing, I couldn't have even bought one if I wanted to. Looks like I have 2 main goals this coming week. Make money and master my sword. I walked home and bought a sandwich at the corner store for 1 bronze coin on the way. I walk up my apartment building steps and see a pair of familiar blue eyes. Wow, you got a sword. Maria eyed the sword on my back as I got to the top of the stairs. She was on her tippy toes and turning her neck to get as full a view of my weapon as possible. Can I hold it? Please, Ji. I was a little thrown off guard. I mean, sure. I took the sword out of its sheath. Its silver body glimmered in last night of the setting sun. Maria grabbed the handle. Thud. As I let go to let her handle the blade, it instantly hit the hard flooring. Maria looked up at me with a slightly red face trying to pry the weapon off the floor. Oops. I laughed a little and picked the sword off the ground. I forgot how heavy my own sword was. Maybe someday you'll be able to handle it. Haha, when is your awakening date with your school anyways? Looking a little disappointed at first, the mention of her own awakening brought a smile back to Maria's face. You are really strong, that's so amazing, Jay. I'm going to be a strong hunter like you soon. My exam is on Wednesday, just 4 more days. I can't wait to get an ability. She started punching the air and making sounds like she was fighting off imaginary monsters. I just watched for a few seconds and smiled a bit until she got red-faced again and stopped abruptly. She looked up at me. Hey Jay. Are you free on Wednesday? Yeah I am, why? Well, everyone in my class is allowed to bring one chaperone to our awakening. I don't really know anyone else here. I moved in here a month before you. Straight from my old high school in Vatarian City. It's been pretty hard to meet people, especially new hunters when I don't even have a status yet. So, would you come with me as a chaperone? Her expression became more serious as she started pressing her index fingers together and looking at the ground. I had no idea she was new to the city. I don't really have any friends my age here either, much less any friends that are hunters. I've just been staying inside reading comics and preparing to be a hunter for the last year and a half after I graduated high school. This would be a good opportunity to meet some new hunters, and get to know the only neighbor in my building that's around my age. Sure thing, what time on Wednesday? I smiled and gave a thumbs up. Maria gave out a mini sigh of relief and relaxed before looking up at me again. Great, see you here at 8 a.m. on Wednesday, Jay. She giggled a bit as she turned with a half-skipped back inside her apartment. See ya. I hardly got the words out of my mouth before she was inside. I walked over to my own apartment across the hall, turned my key, opened the door, and flopped onto my bed with a smile on my face. Before I knew it, I drifted off into a peaceful sleep. Chapter 8. I woke up the next morning with a headache and hobbled over to my fridge to grab a cold bottle of water. Glug glug glug. I chugged about half of it and sat in my desk chair. I quickly checked my status and was pleasantly greeted with a full 135/135 MP stat. I got dressed, grabbed my sword, took 3 bronze coins from my bedside table, and made my way out the door. On the ground was a little yellow note with an apple next to it. It read, "Good luck hunting today, JM." I smiled, put the note in my back pocket, took a bite out of the apple, and walked down the stairs in a half-jumping manner. My walk to the dungeon takes no more than 5 minutes now. It gives me a brief moment to collect my thoughts before I go to battle. I'm used to making this walk with my teammates. This is the first time I'm doing it alone in a while. The morning silence is a bit eerie. I went over yesterday's hunt in my head. I made about 20 bronze, but used up all my MP in a matter of hours. It wasn't hard work, I just activated my skill too many times for weak opponents. It wasn't as efficient as I'd like. I think it's time I take a risk. I made up my mind. Today, I'll be facing the boss solo. I approached the blue portal confidently, unsheathed my sword, and jumped through. I made a straight shot for the end of the dungeon. Any goblins that obstructed my path I kicked to the side. I decided they were not worth using my sword, or even collecting their crystals. Today I was on a mission. In about an hour and a half I made it to the boss room entrance. The light grey portal was swirling in front of me. It was a familiar safe color, nothing like that mutant's portal in my previous battle. I grinned and jumped through. I entered the boss room with both hands gripping my sword's handle, holding it towards the back of the dungeon. I quickly disposed of the approaching goblins with a few kicks and a wide swing of my sword. Moments later the familiar hobgoblin boss appeared. The monster screeched as it sprinted towards me with its axe. I had been watching this boss for 6 weeks straight, never getting a chance to take a crack at it myself. It was strong, but I've been leeching off my team's EXP as a porter for a while. I knew I could handle the boss on my own if I needed to. The hobgoblin lifted its axe as it approached me at a rather quick pace. Once it was roughly 5 meters away I braced myself, readied my sword, and charged at it. A moment later sparks began to fly. I brought my sword down to the bottom right side of my body and swung up to meet the monster's axe. He was strong, but I could tell I had an edge on him strength-wise and definitely speed. I thrusted my sword up with a push from my legs. The creature let out a loud grunt as the axe was pushed up by my swing. It stumbled back a step, visibly surprised that a smaller being was so strong. Before the monster could even tell what was going on, I shifted my weight to the right side of its body with a lunge. I could see my old team leader's movements vividly in my head. Without hesitation I jumped forward with all my might, holding my sword directly in front of my body. The silver blade pierced the tough neck of the hobgoblin as it let out a muffled cry. Grug-gah! I ripped my blade from its throat and quickly jumped behind it. The monster was still flailing about. It was critically injured but definitely not dead yet. It managed to turn its body, slowly tracking my movements. I sped up and continued to run around it, trying my best to stay in its blind spot as the monster let out loud grunts and gushed blood from its neck. It was slowing down a bit, clearly having a harder and harder time with my quick movements. A moment later I lined up the perfect shot. I was right behind the beast with my sword drawn. I dove in for the final blow and yelled, "Thias is the end for you." I got a clear shot through the left side of its back. Its heart was pierced and it let out a final weak grunt as it collapsed. I stood over the boss with a grin, admiring my work as the boss disappeared. It left behind a mana crystal about 5x the size of goblin crystals. I tossed it up and down in my left hand as I held my sword in the right. The blinding light came and I was back at the dungeon's starting point again. I opened up my status to check on my MP. To my surprise, it was at 105/135. I accepted it with a grin on my face. That means I can challenge the boss 3 more times today. I made the trek back to the boss room and faced off with the monster a second time. It was a very similar fight. The bosses don't remember previous fights because a new one is spawned in every time it's killed. Only hunters have the advantage of learning its movements. After a brief but exhilarating fight I picked up the mana crystal and was transported back to the dungeon's mouth. Gurgle. I was hungry as fuck. Walking 5 kilometers through tall grass and fighting a 2.5m hobgoblin twice was actually pretty hard work. I slipped out of the dungeon and grabbed a bite to eat at a local shop and played with the 2 mana crystals as I ate my meal. I was so happy with myself, I couldn't stop grinning. After a well-needed meal I jumped back into the dungeon and crushed the boss a 3rd time. I was getting used to its movements in real time now. It made total sense how my old team could just use the same plan every time and defeat the boss like it was nothing. The 4th and final run was no different. I had to think fast but was in no immediate danger as I was faster and stronger than the boss. If I had to guess, it had the stats of an average level 20 hunter. Tough for any noobs, but light work for anyone with battle experience and enough levels on their side. As the last hobgoblin of the day was defeated, I heard a ringing in my head. Level up. Underscore 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 underscore. Name, J Sochu. Level, 27. HP, 140/140. MP, 20/140. Strength, 70+50. Speed, 78. Agility, 83. Defense, 64. Mental strength, 70. Skills. Absorption. Swordsmanship. Items equipped. Stainless steel longsword plus 50 strength. Underscore 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 underscore. The last hobgoblin dropped a light pink monocrystal, and to my surprise a large axe. It had a sturdy wooden handle with a large metal blade. As I threw the monocrystal in my back left pocket, I sheathed my sword and picked up the axe. The white light came and I walked out of the dungeon with a satisfied look on my face. I leveled up and got an item drop today, can't complain. I walked towards the village market with a smile on my face as the sun began to set behind me. A successful day of solo hunting has come to an end. Chapter 9. Hey old man, I have some loot to sell ya today. What do you think about these? I set my 4 monocrystals on the counter along with the large axe with a satisfied look on my face. Looks like you were fighting the boss today. Solo. Yep, solo, it's the new sword. Definitely a good thing I didn't sell it yesterday. The merchant laughed and nodded as he placed the mana on the measuring plate and started examining the axe. The bold numbers on the mana screen read, 39.8 mu. This is a nice drop, kid, it's a plus 15 strength axe. It drops from the upline boss about 1/10 encounters, looks like you challenged him 4 times today. You got lucky. He gave me a smirk and started typing in his calculator. I'll give you a silver coin for the whole haul today. What do ya say? My eyes lit up. Why yes, deal. I shook the man's hand as he threw me a silver coin. Thanks old man, I'll see you again soon. As I turned he smiled and waved. No prob kid, hope I see ya tomorrow. Today couldn't have gone any better. I grabbed a sandwich from my corner store with the 1 bronze left in my pocket on the way home because I couldn't bear to part with my new silver coin just yet. I walked up the stairs to my apartment, opened the door, set my sword next to my closet, and flopped back onto the bed admiring the shiny silver coin I just acquired. I threw it in my dresser drawer a few minutes later and ate half my sandwich in a matter of seconds. I laid back on my bed and looked at my ceiling. A full silver coin, in just 1 day of hunting. This is my new life. That grin came back on my face, I couldn't help it. Over the next 2 days I honed my sword skills even further. Diving into the dungeon repeatedly and using the boss as my training partner. I wasn't fortunate enough to get any more axe drops from my 8 total fights with the boss. However, I did manage to collect 80 bronze worth of monocrystals and level up 1 time. Status open. Underscore 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 underscore. Name, J Sochu. Level, 28. HP, 145/145. MP, 25/145. Strength, 72 plus 50. Speed, 81. Agility, 85. Defense, 66. Mental strength, 73. Skills: absorption, swordsmanship. Items equipped: stainless steel longsword plus 50 strength. Underscore 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 underscore. I made my familiar leisurely stroll back to my apartment. When I got up the stairs and went to open my door, I saw a small yellow note stuck to the door that read, "See you at 8 tomorrow morning, M." I hadn't forgotten, it just wasn't at the forefront of my mind after a long day of training. I would be attending Maria's college awakening event as her chaperone tomorrow. I was looking forward to it, but also a little nervous. It was also a bit odd that Maria had been leaving me notes instead of her usual greetings. For the past 3 mornings I received a note and an apple in the morning. I was thankful, but a bit thrown off guard as well. I guess I'll see her tomorrow, no use overthinking it now. I grab the note, twist my key in the door, throw my sword up against the wall, and do my daily dolphin dive onto the bed. I threw my newly earned bronze into my bedside table drawer. I already have over 2 silver saved, and it's only the first week of the month. I read some comics and drifted off into a deep and comfortable sleep. At the first light I woke up with a ton of energy. Today I'm going to Maria's awakening. I hope she gets a good skill, but more importantly I hope I make a good impression on her and any other potential new hunters my age that show up to the event. That's my main goal, make some friends. I lazed around for a bit. I woke up too early and didn't know what to do with myself. I started playing with my old dagger, admiring my sword, bouncing bronze coins off the ceiling while laying in bed and trying to catch them perfectly in the palm of my hand. Eventually I got dressed, put my sword on my back, and at the last minute decided to grab my old dagger and throw it on my waistband. I unlocked my door and took a step out. Sitting in front of the door across the hall was Maria. Arms and legs crossed with a serious look on her face. She looked up at me, got to her feet, and threw 2 air punches. They were actually pretty decent, nothing to laugh at, but I couldn't help myself but grin a bit. I've been training hard the past few days just like you have, Jay. I'm ready for my exam, these monsters don't know what's coming for them. She stared at me with another determined look on her face while she pointed her right fist in the direction of the dungeon. I decided to go along with her shenanigans. It's probably for the better. That's what I like to see, let's go show em who's boss. I lifted my sword out of my sheath from my back and posed with her for a few seconds, then we proceeded to walk down the steps of our apartment building. We're going to the Alpine Square dungeon, right, Maria? Yep, I'm pretty excited. I wonder which skill I'll get. Maybe I'll be a sword user like you, or maybe I'll get a cool defense skill, or maybe. Haha, we'll just have to wait and see. What weapon did you bring to fight your first monster with? She froze a bit and went red in the face. Wait, I completely forgot about that part. I was totally focused on training my punches. I didn't think about what I'd actually use to fight real monster. Jay, what am I going to do? With a flustered and worried look on her face, I just chuckled a bit and remembered my first day in the dungeon. I was exactly the same, I didn't even bring a weapon myself. It's only right to pass on the tradition. I had a suspicion it'd be a good idea to grab my dagger this morning. I brought you something, I thought this might happen. I pulled the dagger with the small sheath off my waist and handed it to Maria. Eyes wide, she accepted it with both hands. This is so cool. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. It's no problem, keep it. You're going to need a strong weapon to fight off your first monster. I'm here to help. She bobbed her head a bit and we kept walking towards the dungeon. When we finally arrived, there was a rather large crowd gathered in the square. From what I could make out, there was about 20 students. Standing behind, over half of them were older-looking hunters with much more gear equipped than they needed in a dungeon like this. They must all be parents or close friends of the student. They were mostly senior or retired hunters that wanted to help out and brought all their gear to impress the other chaperones. I felt a bit underdressed, but wasn't trying to impress 50-year-olds, so I didn't think much of it. We walked closer and I couldn't believe my eyes. Standing at the front of the crowd checking everyone in were two very familiar people. The petite woman with bright green hair looked up and saw us from about 5 meters away, and a huge smile came across her face. What a surprise, it's you. Can I check you guys in? My eyes went wide. I was just thrown off guard a bit at her sudden appearance. I never expected to see her of all people this morning. Then again, schools do partner with the Hunters Association to have events. They are the closest representatives in the area, and perfectly ranked for a job like this. It makes sense. Abby? You're here. And you are yet, Maria here needs to check in. I'll be her chaperone today. Maria looked up at me with a puzzled look on her face. How do you know her? Who is this? Oh, this is Abby, I mean Ms. Sotoro. A representative from the Hunters Association. My guess is she's our guide today. Abby smiled and exchanged papers with Maria as she checked her in and noted me as the chaperone. That's right, Mr. Raynard and I will be leading the class today to make sure everyone awakens their status properly and safely. Mr. Raynard was close behind her. He walked over. Please get in line, we will be entering the dungeon shortly. He's always a mood killer. I half rolled my eyes, but Abby saw and giggled at me. I didn't mean to, it was more of a reflex, but I'm glad she got a kick out of it. Maria and I made our way back over to the group of students and chaperones to wait patiently before entering the dungeon. Chapter 10. Alright everyone, it's time to enter the dungeon. All students without a chaperone, please stay close to Mr. Raynard and me. Those of you with chaperones, please stay nearby as we enter the dungeon and wait for our instructions before venturing off on your own. We all got in line in pairs of 2 and hopped through the blue twisting portal. Right before it was our turn, I noticed Maria's nervous eyes and grabbed her hand moments before jumping through. She didn't say a word, just grabbed my hand back a bit tighter. Her eyes shifted, looking more determined as she stared down the portal and jumped through with me. When we made it to the other side, there was a common reaction from all the students. They all started feeling the grass, looking at the sky, and turning around in circles. With wide eyes, Maria was doing the same. Wow, it's really pretty in here. I had a similar reaction my first time seeing it, so I can't judge much. The 2 reps let us admire the new world for about a full minute, then Abby spoke up again. Alright, now that you've seen the inside of the dungeon for yourself, let's get started. Students without chaperones, follow Mr. Raynard and me. The rest of you may explore with your chaperones. Chaperones, have your student partners defeat 1 goblin. You are all experienced hunters, so use your own judgment to step in and help if needed. Everyone meet back up here by the portal in exactly 1 hour. Let's go. 7 students followed the 2 reps from the association. The rest of the students and hunters dispersed in different directions. Maria and I headed straight forward and ventured into the tall grass. Hey Ji, how strong are the monsters here? She looked up at me as we walked with a bit of a concerned look on her face. They're goblins. I'd say they have the strength and speed of a 15-year-old boy, but the body of a 4-year-old child. I'll be close by when you fight, but I don't think you'll need any help. My first time it took me 3 clean hits with that same dagger. Just make sure to attack quick without hesitation and dodge when you're in danger. The goblins use small handmade knives, so be on guard for those. You're much smarter than a goblin. Don't worry, I'm sure you'll beat it without a problem. I smiled and nodded. She looked a bit more confident but still held the dagger tight and walked close by my side. About 10 minutes of walking went by and we heard a rustling in the grass. The familiar dank goblin smell filled the air. A goblin is here, I'll leave it to you, Maria. Give it all you got, I'll be close behind you. A moment later the small green man came out of the grass. Maria squared up with it and they both eyed each other for a full 2 seconds. The goblin made the first move and charged forward with its blade drawn in front of it. Maria dodged to the left side and let the monster run past her. She lunged in from behind and got a clean strike right in the back. The goblin squealed. I was honestly surprised. I didn't expect her to react so quickly. It looks like Maria is a pretty decent fighter. The goblin ripped its body away from the blade and turned to face her again. It charged angrily. Maria lunged to the right and gave the goblin a quick and graceful slash to the abdomen. Then in the same movement she pivoted back behind the goblin and stabbed it again in the back of the head. The goblin let out a sad grunt and collapsed. I walked towards Maria and slowly clapped. Damn, I didn't know you could fight like that. I didn't even have to think about stepping in, good for you. She looked at me and blushed a bit, then her eyes lit up as a blue screen popped up in front of her face. It's my status. I got my status. She was mesmerized by the glowing screen. With a smile on my face, I patiently waited and let her take in the moment. Maria turned her screen to me with hopeful eyes. Is this good? Status open. Underscore 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 underscore. Name, Maria Cortez. Level, 1. HP, 10/10. MP, 10/10. Strength, 10. Speed, 11. Agility, 10. Defense, 10. Mental strength, 17. Skills. Combat magic ice summoning. Items equipped. Iron dagger. Underscore 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 underscore. My eyes went wide. Combat magic? It looks like it's a pretty rare type as well. I honestly don't know much about magic, it's much different than my skills. You definitely got a good one though. Guilds will be all over you soon. Really? Maria's eyes went even wider and a huge smile came across her face. She started bobbing her head and jumping around happily. I let her celebrate, then turned to her. You know, your mental strength also has a really high starting stat, that means it'll grow much faster than your other skills. Mental strength directly correlates with a user's magic power. It's the perfect combo. So it is good. Try it out, let's see what your skill can do. Just concentrate and repeat your skill name in your head. Okay. Maria had that full concentration look on her face again. She put both hands in front of each other and stared forward. A white and blue mist began to form, then a small object in her hand formed, it grew a bit bigger and bigger. It looked like a sword. I did it. Maria turned to me with a satisfied look on her face, holding a beautiful light blue sword surrounded by white and blue mist. I really did it. Look. I'm a sword user like you, Jay. She smiled even brighter and swung the sword once. It really was a beautiful sight. The light blue sword matched her eyes and the mist made her body stand out in the open field. I was mesmerized for a moment. Then the mist started to subside, dissipating as Maria kept swinging her sword. After about 5 swings the mist was gone, then on the 6th the sword shattered into 1,000 pieces. I was still staring at her. So that's how it works. She looked up at me puzzled. What do you mean? Take a look at your status again. What's your MP stat at? She pulled up her screen with a look of dissatisfaction. 0/10. Dang-a-git. Yep, makes sense. You'll have to level up a bit before you can use your skill for longer periods of time. It's normal, don't worry. Okay. By now the goblin had fully disappeared and left behind its mana crystal. I picked it up and threw it to Maria. Your kill. Your crystal. She caught it and started moving the crystal between her fingers curiously. A new look of awe came across her face. She was definitely not down about her MP running out anymore. Thanks, Jay. I was pretty nervous this morning, but now I'm finally a hunter like you. I smiled. Yep, congrats. Does your school do any training? Or are you on your own now? My school will train us in the dungeons for the next 2 months, but I'll get some weekends off. By then we should all be in parties and ready to take on the dungeons without any guidance. Alright, cool. I was just curious. Let's make our way back to the meeting point. Okay, sure, but once I'm done with my school training I want to show you my skills. I will master my sword, I promise. Get ready, Jay, I'm going to be an even better hunter than you. I bet. Can't wait to see it. She nodded at me with a determined and satisfied look on her face with her cheeks puffed out a bit. We made our way back to the portal to find a dozen students chatting and showing off their status screens to each other. Maria and I just stood around and made small talk, waiting patiently for the Hunters Association party to return.